These conscious conversations are by design research in progress, which you are participating in. We follow in this process actually an ancient process of Eastern and indigenous traditions, which by definition are oral traditions. So their knowing is passed on by the word from generation to generation, versus written traditions, where there is a book which is passed on. In oral tradition, we, the next generation, are the ones who are in charge. It's up to us to invest into it, to investigate into what is given to us from our forefathers and foremothers. And it's our explicit dedication and task to investigate ourselves into it. What does it contribute and mean to us in our given life circumstances today? Not in those of our parents or the generations before that, in our real life situations. So it's about the truth we have to engage in, to find. We have allow it to unfold by these investigations, by this process. So it's in some ways an investment. It's investing one's own life into these questions. But at the end, there is nothing else but our life. So what else to do but invest it in the given moment? Why Daoism? This opaque, delicate, subtle, bold universe of wisdom, which has informed half of the world, half of mankind in the Eastern world for over 2,000 years. And it's become an inseparable thread to all cultures in the East, which is some of the groundworks of parts of Buddhism, of core parts of Buddhism, especially in Zen, in Hinduism, in Vietnamese traditions. So why this? And opaque if you ever have opened the book on Daoism, it starts with this wonderful first phrase: the Tao that can be expressed is not the real Tao, or can named is not the real Tao. And why, in combination with something like leadership, management, where in our contemporary reality, leadership is about the real thing, the fixedness of it. What is it? The seemingly clarity, the seemingly predictability of it, which seems to be the opposite to this open and potentiality. And Shantena called it in one of our conversations, Daoism is of rebellious nature. Shantena, thank you for being here tonight. What is it about this rebellious nature of the Tao?
I'd say one of the key elements of the Tao is that there is no fixed point. There's no fixed reference. There's no predetermined path. So the Taoist it is rebellious towards any system and is very careful about how he or she gets engaged in life. It's critical of fixed roles and taking one's role very seriously or very fixed, in a very fixed way. The Tao Te Ching, the book of the Tao and its wisdom or its virtue, is at the same time like a metaphysical treatise. It's about the universe, how the universe functions, and a personal guidance book. A personal guidance in all respects, in all practical circumstances, but it's especially crucial when you find yourself in a position in which you're responsible for other people. So some of the discourse of the Daoist, of Lao Tzu, especially the author of the Tao Te Ching, is addressed to everyone, but is addressed in a special way to the king, to the man who has to take decisions that affect many people's lives. And he paints quite a strange picture in terms of how we ordinarily conceive power, authority, and responsibility. Because it's like, he says things like, if you want to guide people, you have to follow, you have to walk behind.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to accomplish things, you must know how not to do. Well, that's one of the key ideas of the Tao Te Ching, and we'll go back to it. The idea of non-doing, but it's a very special non-doing.
So this following and not going ahead in our contemporary ideas of leadership, we see not only the brave, heroic leaders, but leadership as such as going up front, being the first to move, showing the way. How does that?
It's like the Daoist way of showing the way. Showing the way is there. He's not giving up showing the way,
Mm-hmm.
but he shows it in a more subtle way. He shows it in such a way that when things get done, when something is accomplished, people will say, we have done it. So it's a subtle way to influence things and situations.
But then we are speaking about a very selfless.
That's right.
Selfless form of leadership, won't we? Which again is a seemingly contradiction to what we can see.
That's right. Yeah, it's not common in our world. It's. He says, Lao Tzu says something like, if you want to conquer the world, you must not have personal concerns. If you have personal concerns, it's the world that's conquering you.
Mm-hmm. Could we, regarding personal concerns, could I translate this to what we would call integrity. So
yes,
in our work, one of the key qualities while working with leaders is working in that what we call integrity, so that there is nothing that can there are no corpse in your basements, there are no hidden agendas there, so you are free to act beyond any holding back.
yes, I would say that's a good term for it. And the term Lao Tzu would use is maybe even stronger, and that's selflessness. You're not concerned about yourself, but Lao Tzu says, when you're not concerned, you are successful. You achieve. You are respected, not because you stand up in front, but because you actually realize, you actually perform by not performing.
Mm-hmm.
Another image Daoists use quite often is the image of water. You move like water with that like fluid way. But that fluid way breaks down the hardest rocks.
How would that show in, or possibly show in the world of executives, of leaders, in all shapes and forms, actually, not only corporate wise, but we all lead.
Yeah. I think it shows something like a kind of energy one radiates, a kind of consciousness that shows up in one's actions, in one's communication, in one's contact. There's a caring which is for a larger reality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, yes.
But then we are actually on the level of a practice, because
Yeah.
this is not where you begin. This is when it starts showing this.
Yes.
Being present in a certain quality, in a certain way and form, and so where would this practice start?
I would say it starts with presence.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with being very, very much there, very present. My dog, which is here beside me, is eating the Daoism.
Yes.
That's maybe a good way to start.
Not holding back.
Yeah. It's like being there, being available, without the ambition to dominate and to control.
Mm-hmm. This being aware of oneself. I often, one of the layers which I perceive on is when working with our clients is on how much are they aware of themselves,
right,
in an individual way and form, as who they are as a physical human being, and also of how aware are they about the roles they take and inhabit? How fully are they engaged in this, or how much are they holding back? Because this is what we see as human beings. We are designed, our perception is designed to receive on billions of levels.
Right.
Not only on the first level of sight, of sounds, of senses, but we have a sensory, knowingly or consciously or unconsciously, of we perceive how is somebody present, how much is he expressing himself or holding back.
Right. Yes. One aspect of that is how much the person who's there in front of us is competitive, for example. How much it's striving to be superior. We may confuse that striving with striving to achieve or be successful. The Taoist mode is not competing. But, says Lao Tzu, if you don't compete, nobody can compete with you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lightness to your presence.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lightness to your action. But paradoxically, that action is very effective.
This reminds me to one of our practices Julia and I have cultivated as consultants, and I think here are many consultants, we call it not wanting.
Uh-huh. Yes.
We cultivate of not wanting anything from our clients. And this is kind of breaking their concepts about consultants, because
Right.
there is this narrative that consultants want something, they want a job, they want a project, they want something, and this is fascinating how powerful this not wanting is. It's our form of non-doing in this way of, and we play fully at the same time, and this is often beautiful because it magically opens doors.
Yeah.
Possibilities.
I think Lao Tzu would call that Buddhist and Daoist consulting.
Still practicing every single day.
Yes.
Now, there is billions of books written about leadership, and billions of people have said everything about leadership. But why do you think what is your take that it's for today's life, where everything is on one hand opaque, the whole world is in a kind of liminal space reality. There is this writing on the wall of, if you're heading the directions we are heading towards, we are hitting a wall, or meeting the abyss. So why would it be wise or what could it contribute to today's reality, also in the business world, as we see business as major agent for transformation?
Yeah. Actually, the Tao Te Ching originates at a time in China which was of high disorder. And one of the key motivations of Lao Tzu's advice is how to deal with chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And how to identify life-enhancing strengths within the chaos. So not to fight against it by opposing it, but finding the generative, the creative element and supporting it.
So you mentioned in our last conversation two main pillars in Daoism. One is the quality of spontaneity, and the second one was the quality of being prepared, because non-doing is not about numbness or insomnia or
Right.
how
Yes.
would
Yes. This notion of spontaneity is very crucial. And it's like, it's a way of letting inner wisdom emerge. We are the only animals in creation, I think, that are reasoning about our action all the time, which is in some way necessary, but we are way overdoing it. And it prevents us from flowing with the energy of our body, flowing with the energy of situations. So spontaneity is a key element. Trust your spontaneous response to situation. But that should not be taken in a naive way that everything goes. All the examples that the Daoists offer of spontaneity have behind them a very careful, attentive preparation. It's like in the Zen image of the painter who paints a stalk of bamboo. He goes and sits for 30 years in a bamboo grove, then goes and in 1 second, paint it. So the Daoist spontaneity is not groundless. You have studied it deeply, but then you forget about it. When you are confronted with the situation, then you're in touch with your spontaneous, intuitive understanding, with the background of everything else behind you, supporting you, but not being obsessed with it.
Well, that strikes the interpretation of mastery in general. Mastery, there is a saying that mastery takes 10,000 hours or 10 years of practice of anything. And in order to be a master in karate, for instance, you practice your 10,000 katas, just one move. And then forget about it. And then it becomes your nature or a part of your nature to express yourself in a certain situation. And this is also good or also of relevance for leaders, of course.
Absolutely, yes.
Be prepared to practice your mastery, to practice your...
Know deeply your situation, the context you're working in, the people you're in contact with, and trust your spontaneity, trust your intuition.
in many of our conversations, CCG or we, which you are part of, we always have distinct between separation and non-separation. So we could look at the world or at our lives as living from the idea of separate entities.
Yeah.
Which is a common narrative these days.
Yeah.
The me, or you world. Or versus the idea of living from a reality of non-separatedness, of the illusion of separation and being aware of that illusion, being different expression of the same whole. We call it consciousness.
Right.
And is this also the practice for the leader in order to realize she or he is not separated from that what he leads, but is a different expression of the same whole body?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's like separation is an illusion. If you look at it from the point of view of physics, quantum physics, nothing is separate from anything else. It's like we're a big entangled reality. The universe is a big entangled reality. How we have this apparent perception of us as separate beings. It's the real mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly from the point of view of physics.
So actually our tools to perceive are the limitation, and not the perceived as such. And this is what we have access to cultivate these.
The way Lao Tzu says that is, he says, naming is the mother of the 10,000 things. Differentiation, separation arises from what he calls naming, which is basically being caught in the illusion of the ego.
This is also the moment where a process world becomes a thing world, an object world.
Yes, absolutely.
And the process vanishes.
Yes.
This is often something, actually, what we face and we are called as consultants. Because usually clients face realities called problems, and often they relate to those as either fix them for us or help us fix them, or get something which is not within our reach, within our body of the organization, seemingly so it's out there, a thing called, I don't know, change or transformation, and help us find that and bring it in. So then we have it as and many companies do that, and many consultants offer that. And often nothing changes because there is no such thing than transformation as a thing, or as a, the recent one is mindset. We have to change our mind. We need a different mindset, a thing called mindset. And we are seemingly the expert what it means to, when it comes to mindsets.
Well, that's deeply rooted also in our language, because all of our Western languages are noun-based languages.
Yeah.
They're based on the notion of things or objects. It's a peculiar thing that it's like quantum physics, which is the ultimate development of that, shows us that there are no objects. That reality is not local and realistic. So it's we should know better than think in terms of objects and but it's deeply embedded in our thinking through our language.
In leadership, in the leadership development bubble of the consulting world, changes over. It has waveforms, and every other year there is a new interpretation of the recent real reality of what it means to be a leader and how you should do. And I followed several of those in my lifespan, and still recently there were two major interpretations. One was to question leadership at all. Leadership is bad, so to speak, so don't lead. Everything is, as soon as you take out the lead, everything is falling into place and self-organizing, kind of. And the other one was, historically, we come from this traditional way of leading from the top. And then it shifted to leading as a service, seeing leadership as a service, kind of leading from the bottom. What comes to your mind when you look at those two pictures, the one of non-leading and serving from the bottom? What would Lao Tzu say?
I think Lao Tzu would say you have to dance between these two. You cannot take any of them as a fixed position. So you will be leading from the bottom and leading from the top. Abstain from action or act at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So Daoism never gets solidified in one doctrine. As soon as you make it into something concrete and fixed, you've killed it. You've lost it.
Mm-hmm. So then it's about, when it's not about concepts, then it's about situational potentials to be aware and to cultivate your awareness to the potentiality of a given moment. Is this
right? Yeah, I would say yes. It's like seeing the potential that's still hidden in a situation. Like one image that especially Chuang Tzu uses often, and Lao Tzu also, is that of the wooden block, the rough thing, but it can be worked. It can take any form. So it's like the Daoist sage is like that wooden block, which contains all forms within it.
Yes, thank you. Should we go in smaller groups and have our friends and colleagues enrolled and invited to our conversation?
That would be interesting, yes.